You are listening to the Techie Leadership Show with Bogdan and Andrei. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Techie Leadership Show. Today with us we have Nedjalko Milenkov. He is the CTO and co-founder at Mobile Wave Solutions. He's an experienced manager with over 10 years of experience in IT, very passionate about resolving problems, improving and optimizing processes, understanding and evolving company values, and helping teams to succeed. He is extremely passionate about technology and people growth. This is the main reason behind him co-founding Mobile Wave Solutions, a company focused on bringing tech dreams to reality. Hello, and welcome to our show.
Hi, Nedjalko.
Hi, guys, and thank you for your invite.
It's our pleasure to have you on the show. In our quest to get speakers from all the countries around the world to talk about how it is to be a leader in technology.
And do business.
Yes. And do you want to add anything else about yourself?
Well, I think you've been pretty extensive. I can add that, I've started programming or developing apps when I was in 6th grade. So it was always my passion to create software. I remember the days when I was actually saving money to buy books for programming, to doing websites. Now it's very hard to explain to the younger audience, to save money to buy books because everything is online.
They were so expensive, especially in Eastern Europe. Programming books in the 90s and the 2000s, they were crazy expensive.
They were priced in dollars, and trust me, the exchange rate between dollars and our currency back then.
I know, because Bulgaria is close to you guys, and it's the same. It's like instead of buying you some fancy gift or something like this from your birthday money, you buy one book, and that's it, and then you save money for your next book. So, but it's hard to explain it to the younger generation because right now everything is most of the things are free. If you want to learn something, it's accessible. So it's much easier to start developing your dream, whether it's programming or something else. So I started more than 15 years ago developing, and then in my high school to university, I did some freelance projects. And when I started on my first job, I actually had to tune down my experience because, people wouldn't believe that I started.
You knew too much.
So I had to tune it down to look more, accurate. So, and 15, 17 years fast forward, it's here I am with development experience, but also, when you create apps, when you develop for more than 10 years, you want to make something different, right? So that's why I've decided that my next challenge would be to develop something like develop a company, grow a team, develop expertise, and etc. So that's what I've been doing in the last 7 years.
And how is it going?
It's going good. I mean, it's quite rewarding. It has ups and downs, of course, as everything else. But I think watching people grow, for me personally, it's the most rewarding thing, and solving problems, right, and actual problems, and also creating this safe work environment where people can do their job and they like to go to the office. I mean, now it's different. I mean, people don't talk much about office, but before, it's like you spend more than half of your day in the office, right? It's like your second family. So it needs to be pleasant. Exactly, second life. And my quest and my objective was always to make this as a comfy second home where you are excited to go to work.
Well, now I'm really excited about talking with you because that's something that we also want to provide the world and open their eyes, because unfortunately, in most tech companies, most people there are there for just because they get paid to be, not because they feel like they're part of something, they're doing something worthwhile, that they're growing or developing. Usually they lose skills the longer they stay at a company in a position, because they get specialized in one project or just a part of a project, which sometimes it's older technology and it's not something new, it's not exciting. And it's good to hear that there are companies out there that invest money and time and resources to make sure that their people actually grow, develop, and feel welcome, and they're happy coming to the office.
Yeah, absolutely.
I told somebody in the past, I said, listen, you cannot attract top talent with money alone. Because I told them, people that are very motivated by money are usually fall into three categories. Either they have lots of debt and they need the money, or they have very expensive passions, photography, cars, whatever it is, and that might conflict with their timeline for working. So they'll want more time off to enjoy their passions, or they have a drug problem, which means that they cannot be top performers all of the time. So unless these are the three picks that you want, try to focus on other things to attract people to your company.
That's a good example. I like it. So I think it's I know the markets in Bulgaria and Romania are similar, and also in Europe, not to mention US. But it's really hard to attract good talents, right? And at some point, as you said, money are not the most important part of your job. Of course, everyone works for money, so this is really important. And I always try to show it instead of saying it only. Money is important. So whatever you do, you need to be paid accordingly, right? Whether it's in your salary or some stocks or some other type of investment, because you should spend your time primarily to earn money. If that's not the case, you go to a movie, you go to a restaurant with your friends, you have a leisure time. But then after that, everything else that a company offers is actually the differentiator between the companies, right? So everyone can say, okay, I offer you X amount. And then company B says, I offer you the same, right? So how do you choose? It's the small things that are important, right? The setup of the office, the mindset of the colleagues, the company culture, the opportunities to grow. How do you attract people? But then once you have attract them, how do you keep them in your company? Because what you said, that's the reality. I mean, people join company and they leave company. What makes them stay in a company, right? Especially if you have a boring project or you've been doing something for years. That's what I believe true managers should be doing, and they are doing. We are doing. We're trying to keep our people in the company and trying to make them grow. Because when they grow, they face new challenges. So they are happy to explore these challenges, gain new knowledge. So for me, that's really important. And the market is very dynamic. I mean, people sometimes they jump from company to company every 2 or 3 years, right? Especially in the IT industry. So this is what.
And in a way, it's true that people live because of management and they stay because of leadership. So, and it's too much focus. I've seen too much focus like how to do management, and it goes like into micromanagement and all this stuff. Or sometimes it's better to have no management at all and let people organize themselves than to have the management without leadership. Basically,
this is called Scrum by the book. I've never seen it implemented like this. I mean, this is the holy grail, right? I mean, people to self-organize. Maybe we'll get there eventually. I mean, but it requires a lot of, of everyone to be on the same page and people to know each other. So when you have new teams or dynamic teams, when you add a lot of newcomers, it's really hard to do it. So you need someone in the management side to actually drive to steer the boat, so to say. But what you've mentioned has been my dream, to set, because if you have it, you don't need managers, right?
Yes, and it's possible. It is possible, and it happens at some companies because sometimes you have absentee managers. They just like staying in their office and do nothing. The only way it goes wrong is if you have the client, the person that actually pays for everything, they're obnoxious, and then you need the leader or even the manager to step in and take all that beating. You cannot have the people doing the work because they don't have the authority to stay in front of them because it's not presented that way. So that's where, but if you have like a match made in heaven, you have like a really good client or client base, and they trust you and they work with you, they see like you're taking good decisions, they like to communicate a lot. In that situation, you really don't need managers. They should step away, just let the tech team do their jobs, and everything is going to be fine, especially if you have professionals hired inside the companies and they all pride themselves as being professional. That's another rant. It would be like basically not a lot of professionals out there. They might be good with tech, but not they don't have like the professional demeanor. You can still feel like you're in like a kindergarten when you get in some offices.
Sometimes. The only thing I would recommend adding to this, if you have self-organizing teams, as the manager or the director or the CTO or whatever your title is, the chief boss over the people that you actually supervise, from time to time, speak with them and ask them, how is your client treating you? How is the work doing? Do you enjoy it? Go through a list of things just to get them used to the flow, and then drop the really important question. Do you want to keep going with this client, or should we look for a new one for you? Even because if they say I want to look for a new one, then might ask them, you first ask, okay, what are we looking for in the new client, to be able to draw out the real problems that they have with the current client. And even if you don't find a new client, okay, at least you're thinking about them, and they know that. And trust me, people appreciate that.
No, it has to be an option on the table, and it's something like in most outsourcing companies, and even in big companies, because you can have a product company and 50% of all your revenue come from one client. So basically, you're outsourcing for that client, and whatever he wants, he gets.
Yeah.
And having management or leadership, better said, in the company say like, look, I know you're taking some pressure now, but we need him at the moment, and we're working actively. These are the steps we're doing, being transparent, to find 2-3 more clients like him, so we have options, so we don't depend so much on that one client.
2-3 more big accounts rather than clients like him. But yeah, that's the direction. And you'd be surprised of how people react to that, because great workers, great developers, since we're speaking about tech companies, it's true, they live because of they live management rather than companies. Usually they fall into 2 categories. Either they think the work is beneath them, so they want new stuff, new challenging stuff, or they feel that they have been mistreated by the people giving them the work. It's one of these two. So they're looking for new pastures. The grass seems greener when you're stressed out and anxious, and after 6 months you discovered it's the same thing.
Yes. That's why job hopping is really important.
Every 2 years.
Or if you feel underappreciated,
yes,
that's another reason to leave, because you might be thinking that you're adding value, but the feedback that you're getting from your company is that you're not doing very well. So that's another reason for someone to leave a company.
It happens a lot.
Actually, it's even worse than that, because some feedback would be better, even negative feedback. Usually you don't get any feedback at all. So they go over the work that was assigned to you and tell you if it's passable or not, but they never give you feedback. How is the end user using it? Do they enjoy it? Do they find it intuitive? Do they appreciate it? Is it something that they want better done? Did they really like something that maybe you should focus on using in other parts of your work? We never get feedback like that. So you start running like a movie in your mind, started doubting yourself. Anybody can start doubting themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. I always say, especially when I do, one-on-ones, it's like, the feedback, if I always try to imagine myself in the other shoes, right? So if someone is giving me a feedback, I would much more appreciate it if there's a constructive feedback, right? It's something that I can work on, right? And something that I can improve, because everyone has something to improve, right? No matter how great leader you are or great developer or whatever, you have something to work on, right? We're all humans and we all advance in life, and it's an ongoing process. That's the beauty of it. So I think the most important feedback is the constructive one. I mean, what you need to improve, or what you actually need to do to get better, right? To get out of your comfort zone, so that you can improve your skills. Because I think it's, working for a company, it should be a two-way street, right? So basically, you create a product for the company, and this is how company is growing, getting revenue. But then again, company should do something for you. Okay, yes, it's paying you money, but it can also give you so much more. So,
the thing is about constructive feedback. Look, without offering solutions or pathways on how a person can improve, if you don't offer the pathways, you're just offering criticism.
Yeah, it's just nagging.
It's just nagging.
Yeah.
So look, if you cannot offer, if you don't have the experience or the know-how of saying, like, I was in your shoes, or I saw people in your shoes, and how they improved this by doing this and this, or read that book, follow that course, go to this training, go and talk with that colleague because he knows how to solve that issue. Without providing some resources, you're just criticizing, and better not do it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, when a manager should, identify the areas where an employee can improve, and then give examples, and then offer resources for improvement, and also his or her own help, right? Because this is how you set an example. You see a developer that's struggling, you cannot just call that developer and say, you need to work harder. What does it mean, work harder? And everyone has their own, meaning of harder or better or faster. So you need to give examples, and then you need to provide, as you said, actual solutions or suggestions, right? For example, it's not like you're saying black and white, right? You can provide examples, and then that person can extrapolate and make it whatever works for him or her, right? So that's really important. That's what I said, constructive, right? It needs to be constructive. Otherwise, it's, as you said, it's like nagging someone.
You're just nagging.
Yeah.
And Nedjalko, let's get more focused on the leadership part. And I'm really curious about your stories. So starting from the top, what is the biggest leadership success story you witnessed personally?
Right. So one that I can think of is I was working with senior developer, and throughout the years, we're working together. Then he went to another company. He changed several companies, and at some point when we catched up, he said that he moved to team lead, and now he's a development manager. So it's really cool to see someone in like 5 years to move in the ladder, and from a senior developer to have a team of 5 to 10 people, and then to be responsible for 20-30 people, right? And this is, for me, it's very interesting. And also I like to tease him and say, oh, now you see what my problems were, with developers, because now he sees the other side, right? And I think one of the recommendations that I can give to to people who want to become leaders, or want to lead or have a leading role, like a team lead, manager, director, it's like always put yourself in your boss shoes, right? Why is he or she doing this? Because most of the times, if your boss is a good leader, most of the times he or she has a very valid reason for what he's asking, right? So it's not always easy to understand why you have been given some task, right? Or why a decision has been met. But when you try to reflect on this and ask yourself, okay, why is my boss asking me to do this? Or why he or she has taken this decision? It doesn't make sense. It should make sense, right? And when you put yourself in your boss shoes, this is how you get experience. And this is actually how you show your manager that you're capable to take more tasks, and you're capable to take more leadership tasks. Because if you don't show understanding, then probably you won't be trusted with more leadership tasks. So this is something that I've been doing, throughout the years. And I've been always asked, even when I was developer, right? I was always asking myself, okay, why are we doing this? And I had situations where we were doing something that didn't make sense for me, right? So I always challenge myself, and sometimes I ask my manager, okay, in a very constructive way, okay, so can you please tell me? I'm sure that you have a bigger picture. I'm sure that you cannot share all the information, but whatever you can share, it will really help me to understand, why are we doing this way and not the way that I recommend, for example. So, yeah.
This also makes great sense also for technicians, for developers. Always ask your client, okay, what is the purpose? Simplify it. If you had to put it in for this particular job, not the whole project, for this particular job, if you had to put it in 2 sentences, and think of me like a child, what would you want to achieve? And they'll tell you, and the reason behind this, and also paraphrase this, tell them, you tell me what you want to achieve, and I'll think of it as a tech challenge and give you feedback. Okay, we could do it like this. We could do it like that. We could do it like this. These are the benefits for each choice. These are the cost analysis. We can further discuss it, go into in depth, and together we can pick the best outcome for your company, for your product, for your desire. And also another thing about meeting people halfway, what you said about putting yourself in your manager's shoes. Recently, we had an interview with a CTO from another company. The 2 founders did something very interesting in that company. The CEO brought in by the 2 founders, every Monday he would send a company-wide email, because they had offices in San Francisco, London, all over the earth, and which basically it was an outline of what he did the past week and what he wants to achieve this week. He said that he offers transparency, but more than that, it offers a clear-cut company-wide goal. And I guess that's one of the main reasons that 2 months ago they had the biggest software IPO in history. Huge company. Yeah, exactly.
So basically the CEO did like a stand-up for all the company, detailing exactly what he did during a week. Because usually that's something that most people, juniors, seniors, the people working on the product level, they don't get to see. They look at everybody, management basically, in their offices or in the bullpen with them, but it looks like they're not doing that much.
Easy life.
Yeah, it looks like the easy life until you step on the other side and realize, oh my God, there's more work here. It's more complex than
like your friend, the senior developer.
Yeah, like
same situation.
Yes, and that's why it's important to show the company, like especially the C-suite, the leadership of the company should show. It's a good practice to show like what they're working on, what they're doing, what goals they're trying to achieve, what is happening. Yeah. Failures are also good because it shows that they're human, and so people will be. They're also going to step up and come with solutions. You'll be surprised. People you will never think about asking them for their opinion to solve a problem. If you send an email or you company-wide communicate and they find out about it, they might come to you and offer you like really great insight.
Yeah, they might surprise you.
Absolutely. For me, transparency is really important. And it's for example, we have a developer and like John, and we give John tasks and like his first task is to make a calculator for prime numbers, right? His second task is to calculate a vector for something. His third task is to get a very, very, very efficient communication, right? With very low bandwidth. And at some point, this guy will come to us and say, guys, why are you asking me to do this? It's like, just install Skype or we can use a higher bandwidth protocol. I'm working on this. And then you tell him, well, actually, you know what? We're developing software to land a rover on Mars. Now, this is the exciting part. If we have told John, look, you're going to work on a software product that will help land a rover on Mars, he will be much more excited and dedicated, to work on these challenges, even if they're boring, at some point, because he knows the picture. And he knows what at stake. So I completely agree with you. Transparency is really, really important. And also this is the trick. I mean, a good manager will try to give all the necessary information to his or her people, right? Because of course, managers, they cannot share everything, right? And also what I've been seeing in my experience is that sometimes I don't want to share something, not because it's confidential, right? But because it might change very rapidly, right? For example, let's say that we're discussing a new project, right? And there are 4 options, right? And the project will start in a month. And right now we're discussing option A, right? Whether it's the team size, whether it's the platform, whether it's technology, it doesn't matter. It's option A. And, I can go to my people and I say, look, we're going to do in 1 month, something with option A, right? And get excited, they start learning about this. But then things are very dynamic. I mean, the more you go on the top, the more dynamic things get, right? I mean, things change every minute, literally, right? So, and then you can hop to option B. Then as a manager, you need to go to the people and say, look, actually, we're going to use option B, right? And in a week time, you might hop to option C, and then you need to go to the people and say, look, we're going to use option C. And they start to worry because they're not in that position. They don't know how dynamic, decisions have been made, on executive level, right? So a good manager needs to shield this from the people. So it's like, make a summary, right? And just tell everything you can to your people without stressing them too much, right? So
tell them everything that's good and keep all the bad for yourself.
I was gonna add something specifically for what you just said, and this is for everybody listening. When you hear the word transparency and say we're transparent in this business, it's not transparency of everything you do, it's transparency of intent. Okay, because you have two scenarios, two CEOs. The first CEO sends the company-wide email and says, well, I got up at around 10, then I went and played tennis for 2 hours, and then I had the business lunch, and then I came into the company and checked my emails, and then I gave a speech and then left home. Okay, that's the first CEO. The second CEO did exactly the same thing, but changed the words. He said, okay, I played tennis with a venture capitalist for 2 hours, one-on-one, just the two of us. And then I had a private lunch with angel investors. And then I came back to the company to speak with my tech staff to see exactly the direction. So they both did the exact same thing, and they both were transparent, but one was transparent with what he did, and the other was transparent with what he wanted to achieve for the things that he did. You don't need to explain the mechanics of your day-to-day life, because only people who know what it means to be a manager and a business owner will get those. Only they will understand. So be transparent with the intent, make it accessible to everyday people. But now we have to move on to the thing that gets me the most excited. What is the biggest leadership failure that you've had the unfortunate experience of witnessing?
So I was fortunate not to witness, many failures. But as a summary from what I've seen is like people got promoted to a management position, whether it's a TL or something else, and they become new people, right, from day one, and it doesn't work like this, right? If you're promoted because of yourself. You cannot change your attitude 180 degrees, right? Because you lose the values that you've been promoted for, right? So I've seen managers that they were very close friends with their teams, and once they get promoted, they build a wall between them and their team. And also the second thing that I've witnessed is, people doing micromanagement, right? It's like, for example, I see some that developer that's always complaining why his boss is doing micromanagement. At some point, this developer gets promoted as a TL, and he starts doing micromanagement. Exactly. Right? It's like his most important thing is to ask, every hour, what are you doing, or how is it going, or do you have any question? How can I help you? And so these are the two examples that I can give. People that change completely, or just create a completely different face when they become managers, and also people that are doing a lot of micromanagement, and that's a way of showing their insecurities, and it's really bad for the team, right? I mean, micromanagement is one of the worst things that can happen.
Actually, I think this happens, and it just dawned on me, because when you promote a person to be a manager, you don't have a discussion with that person. How do you see management? How would you manage a team? Because people would, when they think about management, they have preconceived notions about how to be a manager and how you should do it and everything. And it's different than how they behave and being in production, because they don't feel this. I'm not a manager, so I don't have to behave as a manager. And lots of people view management as you have to be in your office and you're like on a higher tier now, and you have to show that. And usually I found that people got stressed, start doing a lot of micromanagement when they see they're not getting results because they secluded themselves in an ivory tower. And now they're getting like bad reviews from the people even higher up than themselves. And they're like, oh my God, I'm going to lose my management position. The only way I can keep it close and keep on is to get results. And how can I get results? Is by breathing down the necks of my former colleagues and make sure that they get the job done and putting all the pressure on them. and it's due to this, and that's the reason we started the show, because there is this misconception about how to be a manager. Among tech people, they see management and how to behave as a manager in such a bad light, and with poor results at the end. They don't realize that, as you said, like if you keep doing what you were doing before, when you got promoted as a manager, you would be way ahead. Keep close and be friends with your colleagues, talk with them, help them out, because that's why you got promoted. You got promoted
Absolutely.
because you were doing management stuff before having the title. So just keep doing what you were doing.
Yes, exactly. But since we're talking about tips and tricks for people to promote better managers, and I saw this in practice. I saw a solution for exactly this problem. I'm not saying it's the best solution, but at least it's a solution. I have a friend that recently was promoted in a managerial position for a very big company. I won't say the company name, but they sell books online. That's what they're famous for. Okay. And basically what they did, and he told me he noticed this kind of late. What they do is when they want to promote somebody new, they make the position available, publicize it internally and externally, but they prefer internal people. People who would want to accede to that position apply for it. They have one-on-ones and all that jazz. That's the technical part. That's not important. The sneaky part is that they change nothing in regards to the contract they have with the person. They just start giving him more and more responsibilities, more and more towards and keep growing him on a monthly basis. They do not give him the title. They do not give him a new office. They don't even increase the pay. So they're basically exactly the same person, but with more and more responsibility. If they can handle the responsibility, they might not like it, they might not enjoy it, they might not keep up with all the increasing responsibilities, or they might start doing micromanagement, they won't get promoted. But when they get promoted, they have experience. Once they have the title, they actually have experience doing the work they are now newly assigned for.
Exactly.
And also it does another tricky thing, but don't share it with anyone. This is just for business owners. It decreases the chances of your people leaving too fast in other companies. So in his case, it took more than 1 year of doing actual managerial work before he got promoted. So you get the endeavors of a manager without having to worry that they'll leave. Once they get promoted, even if they might say, well, it's not technically exactly for me, but I can do the job, they will stick to it at least for 1 or 2 or 3 more years. So you will do work in promoting them and teaching them, and you will get back return value without having to worry about them leaving too fast.
Because they have to work for it.
They have to work for it.
I can tell you why they don't increase the salary initially. Because of what you said. So what happens, you promote someone as a TO and you increase his or her salary, but that person is not performing. So it's easier to say, oh, okay, we'll make you a senior developer because we need you a lot in that area of expertise, right? So we can utilize you better as a developer rather than TO. So you haven't failed, right? But what do you do with the salary? Do you decrease it? I mean, once you increase the salary, that's it. It's very hard. Exactly. It's very hard to decrease it. So this is the reason, I guess, one of the reasons why they're doing it that way. And another is, as you said, it's just budget. It's like gives you 1 year free of a TO position. It's always give and take, right? It should be a two-way street, right? I mean, the company is helping the employee to grow. But on the other side, the employee is helping the company as well, right? Because you need someone in that position, and of course, companies always prefer to promote someone internally because they trust that person. They know it. There is a saying that I prefer to choose someone based on what negative qualities I know about this person rather than the positives, right? Sometimes people don't like surprises and they want to know what are the negative qualities of a person and then promote that person to the position because they know what to expect, right? Because if you know only the positives of a person, right? For example, he or she is like working long hours, very dedicated, and etc. But you don't know that person very well, you could be surprised, right? You could be going into a minefield. That person can easily burn out, for example, or can be stressed, or there's a lot of things that can unknowns. So a manager prefers to know his people, and this is one of the reasons why internal promotions are so sweet spot for
they are
sweet
spot, but leadership has to know how to manage them, because you can create a whole bunch of problems internally. It's way easier to bring somebody from externally and place them, and if they doesn't work, they leave the company, and that's that. And it seems like it's a failure only on the leadership side, and it's okay. But if you promote somebody from internal, put them in, and then because of envy and stuff like that, and somebody else was expected to get the position, and they have more clout and they're closer friends with the people on their team, it can turn into something way worse if you don't have the discussions with everybody that's going to be under them. Like we were thinking about promoting Jim, for example. What do you think? Would he be a good manager? And you have to be able to get a consensus inside the company that yes, we should promote him. It doesn't come like top down, it should come bottom up, the promotion basically. Yeah. If not, it would fail and you actually lose, because that person that will not stay probably in the company if you have to demote him because he sees that he's not really wanted by his colleagues and he cannot go back, and you actually lose a good performer by doing a promotion without doing all the leg work to ensure that it's going to stick.
And this is another thing that is solved when you stretch out the time period to promote the person and keep giving them responsibilities. Because if they're more responsible for the work being done by the people around them, slowly rising, anybody has any complaints about it, they can complain. Okay, and you ask them, for example, Bob, what's your problem with Jim doing that? Oh, you're giving him a managerial role. I don't think he's good. I'm better. He says, okay, Bob, I'll give you a separate team. Go for it. And in the end, you can either have two good managers, one good managerial choice, or no manager. But you won't have any complaints like
you won't have
Andrei said.
And you can bring somebody from the outside situation.
So make it seem it doesn't seem sudden. The promotion, the responsibilities.
Another way, but it's harder. The manager needs to put more work, is to know very well your team. And I think that's
you
one.
You have to know it if you're a leader.
That would be my advice: is to try to understand and know very well your team. And when you know your team, you know which people want to be leaders at the moment. Because if you have like 10 people team, it's not like all these 10 people want to be TLs at this specific point in time, right? So usually you have one or two, maybe three people that they want to be TLs. And then just you need to have regular conversations with them, one-on-ones, and ask them, do you want to develop yourself more in like a line manager or like technical lead? Because there is a difference between team lead and technical lead, and some people don't understand it. So they think they want to be TLs, but actually they want to do technical management.
Choose the technology.
Right? Yeah. Exactly. So it's really important to know your team, and then once you have this open position, to, you know, as you said, to have an open discussion and to steer the right guys to that position. And for example, if you have two people that the two people are really competing about this position, and if you think that, you know, if you choose, let's say, John, that let's say Ivan will suffer and he will leave the company, right? Then what you can do is have separate discussions with both of them, explain them, okay, you know, this is the positions, these are the requirements, you know, how can you help us? How can you help the team? And then you can just bring them together, right, in one discussion, and, you know, make them talk, right? It's like, for example, who would you prefer to be on that position? Well, is it rather you or your colleague, right? And sometimes you will be surprised because people will say, oh, you know, my colleague, he has so much more experience. Maybe, you know, I learned from him and then I get promoted for another team, right? I just don't like very aggressive competitive environments, right? It's not my style, and I don't promote it because I think that people should feel safe at work, right? You don't want to go to work and, you know, think constantly if someone will backstab you or if someone will, you know, take your position or take your role and etc. What you want to do is really create a good environment that everyone feels safe and appreciated for what they're doing and for who they are. And basically, when you go to this dilemma, really what will help you will be the company culture, because it's very hard to create a company culture. But once you're able to grow a good company culture, it will work for you and it will be a safe net for all these coming issues. Because if your company culture is like to create, to promote, you know, discussion and people helping each other and spending more time, you know, to help your colleagues to do his or her tasks, then when you come to this decision and when you have two people competing for one position, because of the company culture, first, they wouldn't compete aggressively. And second, when you have open discussion between them and say, okay, guys, just tell me, you know, who from you should take this position and why? They might surprise you. I mean, they might say, fine, I think John deserves it more at this point, or he needs it more, right? It might be he has a newborn or he has, you know, some expenses. People will surprise you when you have a safe family environment. People really, you know, care for each other. And they know that, okay, John will take this TL position, but my manager right now knows that I want to be a TL eventually. And he or she will lose me if I don't get promoted. And because I'm in this safe environment, I know that as soon as there is another open position, I'll be the man for it, right? So this is another way of
and that's something
happen.
that most people that get promoted to management don't expect, and they're a little shocked. Is like all the social financing you have to do, and you have to basically. I advise anybody that wants to get into a managerial role, get at least 10 books. Go to like a library on psychology, human psychology, whatever appeals to you. Just get them, read them. And then shoot. And you have to realize that, especially as a technical person, it's going to be like a big leap. Because you're used to working with technical stuff that
with things
they work.
People.
You can make them work if it has.
You can coerce them to work. I will force this.
You can coerce them to work, and then you start working with people who you cannot coerce. You're going to find out really fast that you're going to get really bad results if you try to coerce anyone.
The more you try, the worse it becomes. It's amazing that you reminded me that, because I remember another company who I think solved that exact problem and a couple more. They had very good job descriptions of each and every role in the company, and each and every new role that they created. Everything this is like TL, team lead, does this experience required, what is preferred. A very objective outlook without looking like one of those crazy adverts and like we want 16 years experience and PhD. I mean, down to earth explanation. It solved two things. One, it helped people understand what they're looking to, where they're looking to advance. And two, it helped people understand what everybody around them is doing. In case they need something, they know exactly which person they need to speak to get their problem solved, which goes back to transparency, which creates also company-wide values and goals. But since you've been speaking about philosophizing, what is your leadership philosophy?
So, there's a lot I can say, and probably many of the things that I can say, someone already said them, right? And I think what I can say is, be persistent. That's really important. Sometimes you need to be stubborn, but in a good way, right? With eyes wide open. But you need to be persistent, right? Because I see people that get frustrated when things don't go as planned, right? Or when there are challenges. And I always try to tell them, look, be happy, be grateful that there are challenges, because if there weren't challenges, nobody would want your position. I mean,
yeah,
you wouldn't be
you
here,
wouldn't
right?
be in the position.
You wouldn't
exactly.
be needed.
Yeah, you are a manager, you are a leader, because we need your expertise to solve these challenges. If there weren't any challenges, we will go without you, right? So be persistent, and that's really important. And also, I like to plan a lot, right? But not over plan. And my advice would be, have a plan. And the caveat here is always be ready for a change and be flexible, right? It's good to have a plan, but things change, right? And we need to adapt. And as I mentioned earlier, business is very dynamic. The higher you go, the more dynamic you see. So be prepared for a change. Have a very steady plan in your head, step A, B, C, 1, 2, 3, and etc. But be ready for a change, embrace a change. It might be something better, right? Because I see a lot of people that get frustrated that something didn't, went according to the plan.
Yeah.
And they lose time to frustrate themselves, right? Instead of losing this precious time, just think about how you can move on. Okay, something bad happened or something unexpected. It's done, right? Now think about how you can change it, how you can turn around it, and how you can go back in your original plan. Or you might create a new plan that's even better. Having the input data that you have at the moment, right? You might think of something better. So plan, it's really important. And I think one of the topics that I don't see a lot, when people comment about leadership, usually people say you need to be persistent, you need to get up early at 5 a.m. This is how super performant people do, and blah, blah, blah.
I heard that one too.
But if you write in YouTube, how to become a leadership, I'm sure that you find these inspirational videos, you find someone talking about, and most of the things make sense, right? They make sense, but it's really hard to make them in real life. But what I don't see is, it's like, don't compromise on your principles. I think this is really important. This is really important for me as well. It's like, whatever you do, you have your core principles. Don't compromise on them, right? Because once you make the first compromise, then, the floodgates are open. And I think then you start to lose yourself. And this is what I can say. These are my 2 cents. Like, don't compromise your principles, and always try to work around and make decisions that are aligned with your principles. Because there's a lot of ways you can do something, right? And sometimes, I'm tempted to say most of the times, but let's just say sometimes, the easiest way is not the right way, right? Or sometimes because your manager above you is saying or forcing you to do something, it's not, you know, the optimal way, you know, and sometimes your manager doesn't have all the data that you have, right? So if you get asked to do something that you don't feel that's right, maybe it's because your manager doesn't have all the picture. So as a leader, your objective is to talk to your manager. It could be C-level, board, you know, director, whatever, and to make understand why you are not comfortable doing something. And, you know, most of the times they'll understand, and then you do it in a way that, you know, works for your principles. So this is what I can say. And also something about all these books about leadership and all these videos, they're great. And people should read them, people should listen to them, people should listen to your podcast, because it's, you know, you hear other people's stories. But we should not forget that there is a secret ingredient, right? I mean, you cannot replicate someone's success just by doing all the steps that they have mentioned in their book or that they have done in the interview and etc. Because there's always something, it might be small or big, that's missing and you don't know it, right? So it's like making a soup. For example, I tell you, okay, put potatoes, put tomatoes and etc., but I don't tell you to put salt. Maybe I forget, or maybe there's no time to tell you to put salt, right? And then you have something that you don't like. And also something else is that, you know, most of the times, I would say almost always, people get interviewed when they achieve something, right? For example, right now, if you interview Jeff Bezos, you know, and I hope you get the opportunity, you know, I wish you to have a time with him, or with Tim Cook, or some other, you know, really inspirational leaders. You will learn about their past, about their history. They will tell you what worked 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 5 years ago, right?
No longer
you are not going to learn what will work in the next 5 years, right? Because it hasn't been proven yet, right? Most of the times people interview something or they listen to someone that has already been successful. But what we miss is that person has been using this algorithm, right, 10 years ago. If you use the same algorithm at the moment, you might fail completely because it's a completely different market, right? So my advice would be, yes, listen these books and listen these interviews and read these books, but don't try to make everything by the book. Just extrapolate, you know, think about it, reflect about it, and make things that make sense in your business, in your domain, and most importantly, in your time, right? Because if Jeff Bezos fails with a project, right, it's not a big deal. He'll lose several $1 million and he'll get another project, right? I mean, Google failed with their, what was it? The Facebook alternative. Google, not Pages, but I don't remember. Circles. First it was called Circles. Google Circles, then they rebranded and they failed, right? But because they're Google, you know, they just moved to another project. Imagine if this was your only project, right? And you fail. So
and that's that level and cost.
No, but most companies, if you look with all the CEOs and everybody, most of the projects and most of the companies they acquired that were successful and they fail afterwards. Yeah. So it's usually their core goes on because it's built on solid principles and market match, and they're so big that they cannot fail anymore. But when they try to venture out into new stuff, with all the leadership, all the experience, everything, they have the same rate of success that the rest of the mere mortals, to say, have,
Absolutely.
basically.
Yeah. Even a company as big as Google, and I'm not particularly interested in them as an example because they're that big. They're like a conglomerate when it comes to tech. But as far as I can see, they're only making money out of 4 business ventures. So you have Google, Google AdSense, advertising under Google, main plus. You have YouTube, which they acquired and it grew exponentially. They got in on it at the right time. They had the money and they had the vision. They're making money with Google Fiber because every internet provider can make money. It's the more years pass, the more money you can make with it. And cloud solutions. I don't know of any other part of the company that really brings in money, honestly.
Absolutely.
To keep the lights up.
I think 80% is from ads.
Yeah, it's ads. It's ads based. That's their main revenue. It's not, and that's what they got like when they started growing. It's not, they haven't before. If it was like the idea of a leader being so, as most leaders are portrayed, like so having such deep insights and seeing the markets and everything
and the future.
And the future, yes, they would be building on that, and they would become like juggernauts spanning the globe and basically globing up if you have the foresight to see how it goes.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's guesswork, and just like you said it before, you cannot reverse engineer success. It doesn't work because
that's really important.
Success, it's like the truth. It's just one thing.
Yeah.
Failure, on the other hand, you can always reverse engineer failure. I don't care if it was 50 years ago. It's the same true today as it was 100 years ago.
You can
fail
so as others today.
True.
Yeah. That's why we have the failure question. That's what the one we consider the most important. It's not the success one.
It's the failure one.
It's the failure one, because failures you can learn from them and avoid them.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Then, Nedjalko, when it comes to aspiring leaders, what are the top 3 leadership tips you would have for them?
So and again, there are a lot, and people can talk a lot, but my top leadership qualities would be like be yourself. I think this is the most important thing. Be yourself. Don't be someone else. Because everyone is unique, right? You are unique, and you are who you are. So it's not gonna work if when you are a leader, you are someone, and when you're home or you're with friends, you are someone else, right? It's not gonna work because you are a leader 24/7, right? And I've seen examples of people like they've been put in, like in big companies, right? They are in these positions because they grew because of the time they spent on the position or for some qualities. And they're leaders there because of their title, right? But if you look at them, on a team building, or if you look at them in the store, or if you have a situation on the street, they wouldn't lead, right? So, and this is really important, right? If you are a leader, you're 24/7. It's not like, I'm a leader at work. So, and then you just, I'm not, I'm very shy. If I see someone falling on the street, I won't help them. Or if I can prevent an accident, I wouldn't do it because, I'm just, be yourself, right? Because this is what people will value. And, it's so much easier, because if you're someone else, think about it. You need to remember what you're saying, you need to remember how to behave. And this takes your CPU time, right? Your memory. I mean, instead of focusing on the actual problems, right? You just focus on how to be someone else. And the problem is that the more you try to be someone else, the more you become that person, right? And it doesn't end well most of the times. So, and it's very interesting when you do team buildings, right? In team buildings, you can see the actual leaders because they lead in the team building, right? Because in a team building exercise, you don't have titles. The CEO could be just Bob, right? And he's working side by side of you. And he cannot tell you, oh, please do that. He needs to find another way to persuade you to do a task, because he's not your CEO at the moment. He's just a random person in that team building exercise. So team buildings are very important. And I would say for leaders, it's like making the good games, the team buildings, not at the moment, but, at some point in the time to look at your natural leaders, right? Because people that lead on the field outside work, they'll probably do fine at work as well. So first one, I'm sorry to repeat it so much, but for me, it's really important. Be yourself, right? You are unique. And if you are promoted to that position, obviously people look at you and they see value, right? So keep being yourself and people will appreciate it. There's so many fake news, fake videos, fake stuff on the internet and in real life, right?
Fake success.
Yeah, being yourself, it's becoming like trendy, like being unique. I mean, it's not very common for someone to be themselves, right? So that's number one, and it's hard. And again, it comes on, don't compromise your principles. It's really hard. There is a story, and it's a very good story. There is a man, like a young man, and he sees all these politicians that are really on the top floor, and they don't listen to the people, they don't see the people, they don't do what's best for the people. So he's very upset, and he's like, I'm gonna go there, I'm gonna become a politician, and I'll show them, and I'll help the country. And he starts climbing through the floors. There is a ladder, and it's called Story for the Ladder. And on each floor there is the devil, and the devil is like, okay, I'm not gonna let you go to the next floor unless you sacrifice your eyes, for example. And you say, okay, I'll sacrifice my eyes, but I'll still have my ears, and I need to go to the top floor, right? So I'll do it. Let's sacrifice it. It's really important for me to go upstairs and show these guys how you can do it. And then on the next floor, it's almost the last floor. On the next floor, the devil says, okay, I need to take your ears, right? I mean, you become deaf, right? But this is the price you pay to go to the next floor. And you say, oh, I'm close, so I'll still have my soul, right? Yeah. So you go to the last floor and you're so close, you hear these people screaming and shout. Oh, sorry, you don't hear anything. You don't hear. But you imagine, these people on the top floor, and you say, once I'm there, I'm gonna change him. And on the last stairs, on the last floor, the devil says, okay, now I need your soul. And you're like, I'm so close, right? I'm so close. I need to do it, right? And you give your soul, and you become like others on the top floor. Like, you cannot hear the people because the devil has taken your ears. You cannot see the people and people's problem because the devil has, taken your sight, your vision. And you don't have your soul, you don't have your heart. I mean, of course, that's.
But it's interesting as a politician, you keep your tongue. You can still talk.
Absolutely. So it's and I think that's the real life. Like you start small. Of course, you're not sacrificing your ears or your eyes, but you start small, and you don't see it, and then you keep sacrificing, and at some point, you're a different person. Right? So that's.
It amazes me that you've been to Romania. Now, make sure that when you wake up in the morning, when you look in the mirror, you still recognize the person looking back at you. Because if you have difficulties with that, you're failing. First and foremost, you're failing yourself. And if you fail yourself, of course, you're going to fail other people, because who better to take care of yourself than yourself?
Absolutely. Absolutely. At the end of the day, you're, it's like another thing is, be humble, because even if you're, a very good manager, even if you're the best manager, there's always someone better than you, right? So be humble. The world is a big place. There's always someone better than you. So be humble and always try to self-reflect on yourself. How can you improve? This is really important. Whether you're a developer,
and hard.
Whether you're a junior developer, regular, senior, TL, executive, always think about this and you get better, right? You always get better if you always reflect on how you can get better and improve, and assess the data that you have. What have you done right? What have you done wrong? You get better for sure, because I've seen leaders that they just forget themselves. It's like they've been so successful that they think that they cannot fail.
Yeah.
And sometimes they do really stupid stuff that every other person will say, "Oh, this is just plain stupid. Why do you think you're gonna succeed?"
You see it in sports. You see it everywhere.
When you start believing your own PR, that's when you start losing.
The Americans have a saying for that. It's called "Never drink your own Kool-Aid."
Oh, that's a good one. And the last advice is like, I don't see people talk about it much, but it's like, value your time. And in a way, a lot of people are saying, yes, value your time and how you spend your time. But I want to take it through another vision. It's like think about it. The only thing that you cannot get more is your time. You can earn more money. You can earn double, triple, 10 times, 100 times, X times more money, right? You can buy whatever you like if you have the opportunity, right? But even if you're the richest person on the earth, at least to my knowledge, you cannot buy time, right? You cannot go, at the moment, you cannot go back in time, or you cannot have double the time, right? So you are here and you need to value your time. And I've read books. I've seen people that are really obsessed about their time. Like you need to be this very productive machine that like you wake up at 6 a.m. You have like your schedule is full like till 8 p.m. in the evening, right? And you're so productive. You're doing so much time, so much work. But at the end of the day, you actually it's not only work, right? It's your personal life. You need to balance it. When you're like 40, 50, and when you're reflecting back, don't feel sorry that you've lost your golden years, so to say.
And
so
don't wait until 40, 50. Try to do a review like quarterly. Look at what did I do this quarter? Did I enjoy it? This quarter of a year or monthly. Don't wait until you're 60 to say like, oh my God, I've wasted my life. It's too late.
But it's a good exercise. So what you can do is like, you imagine that you are 60 years old. And would you be happy with what you're doing at the moment? With all the memories that you have created and etc. Because I don't think that people really think about time as a commodity. And I think that's intentional. Everyone is bombarding us with money and objects and stuff that they want to buy. They want us to buy, right? But for example, just a quick example, it's like you work 1 month and you get a salary. And with this salary, you can buy 2 things. Let's just simplify it and say you buy 2 things. Make it worth, right? Don't buy something stupid, because this is your time. It's not your money. It's your time you have spent. You have spent 1 month. Yeah. So buy something, or better, don't buy anything. Just save and invest. But if you have to buy something that reflects on your time that you have spent to earn the money, because money, it's an investment of something that you've spent time on. Like, we work right now, we get money, and with this money we'll buy something in the future. So it's an investment. And I think this is the most important advice that I can share. It's like, it's hard. I'm not a master of it, but it's like, we should always try to value our time, and not through the money prism. Like, for example, I earn X amount of money, so every minute of mine is like a golden mine. No, but for example, if you can change someone's life or impact someone's life with 1 or 2 hours discussion, then just do it, right? You are changing someone's life. Or if you can, make an impact, just spend this time, invest this time. But if you're doing something that doesn't impact, or you don't see any impact, or the impact is lower than you expected, then don't waste your time, because you cannot go back. If you buy a shitty car, you can always return that car and buy something better, right? You cannot do that with time.
Exactly. And that's one thing that I like about being a good leader and getting better at leadership and stepping into a management position, because you get the management position because there are problems and it takes a lot of time to solve them. But if you're a good leader, you're going to find out in a couple of months or a year and something, you're going to be mostly not having that much stuff to do. You'll have a lot of time if you solve the problems and get the people to work and cooperate and do actually what you have to do as a leader. You're going to find that it becomes really boring, and somebody maybe in the upper management will think like, why do we have him as a manager there, because he doesn't do anything all day, and it would be really stupid to fire him because he solves stuff. Maybe promote Absolutely. Him. But if you're efficient as a leader, you get a lot of time.
Yeah. Also, I wanted to add this like a small thing. As a manager, never put yourself in the position to take your people's time away. You mentioned like team building. It's harder for smaller companies, but for bigger companies, if you want to organize stuff, do it on company time. Do not do it on the people's free time. Okay, because then it becomes a job, overtime, OT job, rather than working towards your situation. And I've heard examples from some companies that had great success with this. They were put in situations in which everybody finished ahead of schedule, and so management said, "Oh, all the work is done. Take half a day off this Friday. You finished in the morning, everything. Go home, spend time with your family. Don't worry about it. We'll see each other on Monday."
Okay? Yeah, and that works. That makes people want to be efficient and effective.
I bet this is a product company, though.
yeah, I know it's hard to do it when you get paid by the hour, especially if you do outsourcing. It's sometimes harder to do it, but still, try not to keep. It tends to punish the efficient people, because they look at it this way: if I can finish my job in 4 hours and I still have to spend 4 more hours, I'll either get more work, which I might not feel like it, or underappreciated. So why bother? I'll just drag it on as much as possible. And I've seen and heard a lot of developers do this. When they start, they intentionally underperform for the first couple of months. So when their tasks come in, they are tasks that they can handle no problems.
No, I wouldn't recommend this. I've also seen this, but it's like you are basically shooting yourself in the foot, or maybe in the head, because if your manager is, by the way, when you mentioned that, to read a lot of psychology books and books about leadership, another way, and
Not only leadership, psychology, just psychology,
interpersonal exchanges and communication.
Exactly. But another way is just find a very good manager to work with. So I think this is the most easier and fast route. So even if you're underpaid,
but they're not everywhere. You cannot find.
Yeah, exactly. So you need to make sacrifices. So sometimes it's a lower pay, right? Yes. But it's an investment, right? Just always look at it as an investment, because what you learn from that person would be priceless. And a good manager will identify you as a developer, and if you are overperforming, then you'll get promoted, right? If you are in the company of good managers, and this is why leadership is important, because if you're like a regular manager, that's working from 9 to 6 in his or her office, and not talking with the people and not getting information about what they're doing and what their problems are, then of course people will just overestimate, and they will then not work on their fullest capacity. But if you inspire these people, right, I can guarantee you that almost everyone, there's always exceptions, but almost everyone, and these are the people you would like to keep, right? These are the people that you really like to keep in your team. So they will overperform, and when you reward them, they will keep overperforming. Now the problem is you don't want to burn them out.
Yes.
You need to find the balance where you give them new challenges, but still you make them take their time and relax from time to time, so they don't burn out. But this is it's actually a really interesting challenge, and my advice is give the people the bigger picture. Because again, if we go to my example about this developer John that's doing the Mars software, for Mars landing, if you don't tell him that he's working on that rover and what's at stake, he'll say, oh, a prime number calculator, that's so boring, I'm just going to say 10 days, I'll do it in 5 days, but I'll say it in 10 days. Or, oh, this vector, calculator, it's boring, But if he knows, man, we should land on Mars in 1 year time, this is the deadline, there's a lot of stake, my name would be on that software, right? I will be proud to be, a developer for that architecture and for that program. Then I'll I'll do my best to make it faster, to make it better, to think about all the angles.
This will motivate him not to be the guy in the team that crashed the rocket because he forgot to turn metric into imperial, because that happened.
This is a real example. I know you're talking about a real example. So,
but unfortunately, not all projects are sexy. So you as a manager have to make them sexy and show them what's the importance. And so usually you have to work to increase the value of the project. Usually you don't have it handed to you on a silver platter like, here, we're going to land on Mars and we're working on the software. Oh, that's cool.
It's like
most of them we're making a new CRM.
We're working on bank software. That sounds boring. No, we're working on the future savings and livelihood of every people that's working today.
Absolutely. I mean, everything that we work on, someone pays for. If someone pays for it, means it's precious for that person. So you just need to find that view, that perception, and tell it to your developers, right? Because no one will pay you to do something that, he or she doesn't care, right? Exactly. It's precious to them, right? And the banking example is a really good example, because a lot of people can say, oh, it's very boring, but do you really think it's boring? I mean, you need to ensure that you don't make errors, because as you said, these are people's savings, or, these are transactions, these are money, you don't want to lose them. And there are so many edge cases. And when you start explaining this to the people, they say, oh man, it's actually much more interesting. I want to go to that project, I want to go to that project. So this is, again, if it was easier to be a leader, people wouldn't post positions for looking for managers, right? It's because it's hard to look and to find that perspective and to motivate people. But then again, it's rewarding. People, they feel the reward when they do something hard, right? It's the same with the games. You go to the next level, it's a little bit harder. I mean, if it was easier, then you wouldn't play the game, right?
No, it would be counterintuitive.
Exactly.
And since you mentioned books, I'm curious, like, what is the book that had the most profound impact on you?
So I would say that I, the Robot from Isaac Asimov. It's not a leadership book. Sorry, guys.
No, doesn't have to be a leadership book. Any book.
Why did it have such a great impact on you?
Yeah, because, and I read it, I was always fascinated by robots and AI. Back then, people didn't call it AI, but robotics and the future. And, I was really excited about a world with machines that can think. And, either robot, it's not only about robots, right? There are different stories about, different things that happened in the future. And there is a story, for example, for a man that he invented a time machine just to go back and reunite with his son. And because his son passed away. And what he found out was that he can go back in time, but he's just reliving the same, painful moment. So it's not only about robots. It's a great book. I recommend it. If you read it, you're not going to become, and you follow the steps, you're not going to become a better leader. I can promise you this, But it says a lot of where we are going. Because Isaac Asimov, he was talking about this computer brain, and he didn't knew about AI, he didn't knew about neural networks, machine learning, and etc. But everything that he wrote in the book right now, it's like it's not science fiction anymore, right? So it's this is why I like it. You read about something that's science fiction, and you know that eventually, for good or bad, you are going there. And it's better to be prepared, right? It's better to know what might be coming so that you prepare yourself. So that's why I like the book. It's a lot of stories that if you can reflect a lot about them and you can learn a lot. It's not like the typical leadership book where they tell you A, B, C, and everything is like summarized. You need to summarize it yourself, and you need to find your own truths about life. And this is why I like it. And there are also other books, science fiction books that's really cool.
Looking at the future, I know, Nedjalko, you're really passionate about the green revolution. So how do you see it unfolding from a technological standpoint?
Yeah, I think, I can talk a lot about green revolution, and it's not because it's like modern topic and it's hot topic and everyone is discussing it, but because I really think that's the future. I was at school. I was like 5th grade, and we were learning about this ecosystem called the Earth, and that everything is connected. You breathe air, and then you breathe out CO2, it gets recycled, and in this ecosystem is working like a perfect clock. And I always ask myself back then, okay, I buy, there weren't any computers back then, so commercially available, or iPods or phones. But I was asking, okay, I buy this book, how does it get recycled? Or, we buy this car. What happens with the metals in this car? How do they get recycled? And because I was young, I was like, oh, someone must have figured it out, right? They must have figured it out, because if you're mining ore to build, metal cars, at some point you exhaust the, all the supplies in Earth. At some point you reach the end of it. I mean, if you're mining for oil and for petrol, for gasoline, at some point there will be nothing to mine, because you mined it all. So I was always thinking, I was stressed out, back then, like how this ecosystem works, because we've always learned about the biological stuff, water, air, animals, and etc. But we never learned about the physical stuff, about the, cars,
the economic side.
Houses, exactly. But I always said, someone must have figured it out, right? I mean, we cannot expect to go without a full cycle, right? We should recycle. So, I was like, cool, I'm not going to stress about this.
And then you grew up and found out what?
And then I grew out, and like 10 years ago, I was like, every time I bought something from Amazon wasn't accessible 10 years ago, so much accessible in Bulgaria. But, if I buy something from the store, I open the box, and then there is another box, and then there is another box that you threw away. And, at some point I started getting depressed, right? I buy something and then I get depressed because there's so much waste that I don't use. And at the end of this product life cycle, for example, you buy a phone, and in 4 years' time, 4 years is a lot. In 2 years' time, in 1 year's time, you throw it away. Where does it go? This is so much stuff in there, so much polluting. So I get really depressed.
I know the answer to that one.
Oh, yeah.
It goes to Mexico and India, where it gets recycled, and it kills off 3 rivers, all the fish, and 40 villages. Yeah. I'm talking about the gold inside CPUs and telephones. But that's too depressing to think about.
It's too depressing. So I was like, maybe I'm nuts, because I was talking to my friends, talking to my peers, and they weren't like, oh, it's get recycled, or don't think about it. But then 5 years ago, people started talking about it, and it's really got me excited, because I saw that I wasn't nuts, and people really get depressed about this, especially the younger generation. They really get depressed a lot, and this is why I think it's important. It's longer answer, but it is important because the resources we have, they're not endless, and we have a limited lifespan on this planet, 80 years, 90 years, 100 years, whatever, it's limited, right? And we're lucky right now, and every one of us is a little bit selfish, right? Because we are using stuff, and we don't have 100% recycling at the moment. So our kids and their kids, they pay the higher price. And that's why I think it's really important to act now. It's late, but we can still, change it for a better. And the more we talk about it, the more people get educated, and they start thinking about, why is it important? And the short answer is, it is important because we need a future for our children and their children.
Yeah. I want to add something to what you said for our listeners out there, and to maybe not necessarily create a sense of urgency, but to draw further attention. Exactly what you're talking about resources being finite and our dependence on finite resources. It is already happening today in a field, and it's not being talked about. Especially the general public has no idea, because everybody is scared to admit that this is a huge problem. Almost everything when it comes to constructions is dependent on concrete. Mm-hmm. Okay. The sand used in concrete. For concrete, you need cement and sand, minimum. The sand used is finite, and you cannot recycle it. There are countries on earth today that have a ban on trading concrete grade construction sand. And if you smuggle it, you will do hard time in some of the worst prisons on earth, because they are not the most Western countries in the world. And more countries each year are placing restrictions and bans on the trade and sale of construction grade sand. So again, you cannot recycle it, you can't quite make more of it, and we're highly dependent on it.
And if you wait, you can make more of it. You can wait for it to grow
Yeah.
naturally. But the idea is there's a lot of resources, how I see it. And usually it's the ones that are less talked on that are more in danger of disappearing than the major ones. Because, for example, oil, I think it's more for its valuation to drive the price up.
Yes.
Because they keep finding more and more of the stuff. I don't know how it happens. It seems each year we're gonna run out of oil, and the next day they find out an even bigger supply of it.
Yeah, and gas is the same.
And gas is the same, but there are water. I'm more worried about water than I am about fresh water than I am of oil. The sand part, maybe it will be better because I like wood more and would love to see more houses built of wood
rather than concrete.
You can grow forests back, so it's renewable. It's a renewable in our lifetime renewable resource, wood, and it's healthier in my opinion. So there are other resources. The quality of air, which it's dwindling by the day.
Oh yes.
And planting more trees would help us have houses and also solve some of the air qualities. It's a really complex topic, and sometimes I feel like some of the stuff we're focusing on it's not the important stuff. As usually it's just for economical reasons. It's the important stuff because it helps some people make a lot of money out of it.
Yeah, and the problem is today...
It's not because it will help improve the quality of all living people on the earth. It's just because it's more feasible to have a fat bankroll due to that field.
Yeah, there are plenty of solutions for a lot of problems. The major stepping block that I find is that some of these problems are 20, 30, 40 years old, and there are people who made their careers on the existence of these problems.
And don't want to give them back and lose all the work, all their statuses. And that's leadership. As a leader, you go in because there's a problem, you solve it, it's done. Go find something else to be a leader in.
Yeah.
You don't go in and keep the problem so you can still be a leader.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you'd be surprised how one problem can be a great advantage or solution for another. For example, plastic pollution is a very big problem. And the biggest problem is, okay, we got all that plastic, we didn't throw it in the oceans, we got it all stored in one place. What should we do with it now? Well, maybe we could recycle it. Okay, but to recycle it implies use of energy, manpower, and it again increases the end cost of new plastics. Well, they did find one cool solution in India. They use it to reinforce asphalt roads, which makes the roads so much more durable. But then again, in countries like Romania and other countries in Europe, if you suddenly make asphalt roads last 10 times longer, some people will go bankrupt overnight. They will pay an arm and a limb to stop that innovation. So it goes back.
It goes back to leadership. It's all about leadership. Well, Nedjalko, if people want to find out more about you, where should they go?
I think they can ping me on LinkedIn. You know, they can search for my profile. I'm always happy to start a discussion and meet new and interesting people. So LinkedIn, I think, is the best place. I don't have any blogs or vlogs. I'm thinking about them, but at the moment, LinkedIn.
Maybe the company website?
Yeah, the company website. It's more branded, but yeah, you can go to mobilewaves.com if you if you need IT resources or if you need help for your projects, and if you need dedicated developers, QAs, project managers. It's a good place to start.
Yeah, they have good leadership.
Well,
at least on the technical side, we cannot speak
about
the rest of the leaders. And if you're from Bulgaria or want to move to Bulgaria and you're on the tech side, I highly recommend reaching out to Nedjalko. Maybe he has a position for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And as he said, learn some leadership from a good leader.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Nedjalko, for coming on the show. It's been a true pleasure, and it's been a really, really interesting conversation.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. It's been a pleasure for me as well.
That was today's episode. Tune in daily. Rate, like, subscribe, and share, please. Oh, you can find further info and materials in the show notes on techyleadership.com, including links to the guest book recommendations.